Welcome back to the Unacceptable News. I'm your host, Justin Bush. I'm voting Trump 3024. Today's story is about the Nazca mummies. There's been so much. There's just been so much. So really, our story is kind of unwinding and all the tethers are being pulled. We have people from all across the world that are now getting involved in the Nazca mummy research. From France to Mexico to the United States. We've had, scientists from all around the world, and it's really starting to kind of catch on that these creatures, whatever they might be, are legitimate artifacts of some kind. In fact, the story really broke. In fact, let me just show you a picture or two of these creatures. So the story really broke because the Ministry of Culture fought against the release of these creatures. When the Ministry of Culture was notified that these artifacts exist, they essentially came out and said they're all fakes. Nothing about them is real, nothing is genuine. They're complete hoaxes, fabrications. They called them paper mache. So they said they were made out of paper mache and old animal bones. And then as the preliminary research got done, Thierry Hameen, we'll show a picture of him, an archaeologist that actually got first access to these mummified remains. He went out and got funding to do some scientific research. He eventually went to France, where some of his funding came from, because he is a French archaeologist stationed in South America. When he got that funding, he went and did some presentations to France about what he had learned from these mummified creatures. That funding was used to verify that they did carbon testing, they did x-rays, MRIs, they even did some preliminary DNA testing and sent it out to multiple DNA labs across the world. So one was in Mexico, one was in the US, one was in Russia. The results they got back were anomalous at minimum. So they had a large variation of DNA from the samples they took. This guarantees that even if they are, let's say, human, there is something strange about the artifacts themselves. So when they received this money to do these preliminary tests, and the Ministry of Culture was coming out and saying they're all fake, they're all paper mache, well, the carbon testing alone proved that they were ancient bones. So then the Ministry of Culture came out and said, well, okay, they're ancient, but grave robbers took the bones, glued them together, paper mache'd over top of them to create these alien mummies. So when that happened, they were like, well, the DNA says that these are unknown bones. And then they kind of just quieted down. And recently, the Ministry of Culture has come after Mexico to receive some of the mummified remains back. In the beginning, some of these samples, because they declared them as fake, they were able to send them to other countries because it's not illegal to send something that's not a legitimate artifact to another country. So they petitioned the Mexican government to get their mummified remains back, even though they said they were fake. So now you have a conflicting statement from the Ministry of Culture. The Ministry of Culture also besmirched reporter Jaime Maussan, who broke the story kind of internationally. He broke the story. They basically said, hey, these are all fake. Jaime Maussan is full of it. They essentially attacked him and his credibility. Not that he doesn't have his own credibility problems. We've talked about this in the past. But Jaime Maussan fought back and sued them. He took the results, the actual scientific results, and used them against the Ministry of Culture and sued. And he won not once, not twice, but 3 times in court. They are now obligated to pay him a $300 million settlement or come to some sort of mutual agreement. Now, Jaime Maussan has come out and said, I don't want their money. I just want them to do the scientific research of these mummified remains and stop saying that they're hoaxes and actually do the research. He said that he would rather, if they could come to an agreement, take the $300 million and put these mummified remains in a museum where they could be properly scientifically tested and open to the public. Those are the 2 things that Jaime Maussan has said. I won't take a $300 million settlement if you just do those 2 things, a museum for further study, open to the public. You cannot hide them from the public. Now, the Ministry of Culture, just recently, we had some American scientists come down from America to study the remains of some of these mummified creatures, whatever they are, these artifacts. Now, it turns out that there are approximately 50 of these bodies that have been found. Okay, one of the people that has access to these mummified remains has openly admitted that there are about 50 of them in various states. Some that are just heads, some that are full bodies, some that are these humanoid creatures, whatever they might be, and then some that are completely different. They have no idea what they are. So why don't we actually show you a picture of one of these unknown creatures. They're calling them insectoids. So as you can see, it's a very strange creature. Now we also have the ones that they're calling reptilians, the short, 1.5 2 foot tall creatures. We can show you a picture of that. And then we also have the humanoids like Maria and Montserrat. I don't know how to say that name, but we'll show you pictures of those too. So these are humanoid, elongated heads, massive eyes, 3 fingers, 3-toed, mummified remains of some kind of humanoid creature. Now, Maria was found with a small baby that they called Wawita. Now, Wawita had an elongated head even though she was very small, which shows that this is not head binding. Head binding has to go on through the age of being a toddler, because you have to give time for the cranium to actually grow for it to look like an elongated skull. And because this mummified remain was found with this elongated head, they know that this is not head binding of any kind. Like, this creature was born with this type of head. Now, this new mummy that they have recently released photos, images, x-rays, MRIs, they're calling it Montserrat and Raphael. Now, Montserrat has a small fetus inside, and they have done x-rays and MRIs of that fetus, and they believe that it has 3 fingers as well, the same as the mother. And we can show you some images of that. Now, what really intrigues me about this entire case is that you have researchers like Brian Forrestal who have been investigating elongated skulls in the Peru region for a long time. They have found these anatomical differences that prove that this is not the result of skull binding. They have also done DNA tests on these skulls showing that there are various differences from the local peoples of Peru. And so we're going to show you a little clip from Brian Forrestal.
It took almost 3 years to get, or 2.5, to get permission from the Ministry of Culture of Peru, who we worked with very closely, especially with archaeologist Ruben Soto, in order to have the DNA testing approved by the government. A total of 18 skulls was tested, and results came back from 12. The DNA was so badly degraded after 2,000 to 3,000 years that of the 58 samples of 18 skulls, we got results from 12 of the skulls from 2 different laboratories, one in Canada, the Lakehead University, and another one at UCLA in California. A third lab was also utilized at Santa Cruz, University of California, but they stated that of the, I think, 18 samples they were given, no results were forthcoming. We're not sure if that's true or whether the results were so bizarre that they decided to hide them. So, in what I can basically tell you is that all Native American people of 100% Native ancestry are supposed to be and were of the haplogroups A, B, C, and D. So this is one of the Paracas elongated skulls. This is one that we believe is natural in shape. And as I turn it, you will see the complexity of the design. You see all that amazing curvature, and basically there's a depression here where the 2 hemispheres would be. The eye sockets are very large. And there's a lack of a sagittal suture here. So the results that we got, 4 of the elongated skulls were of haplogroup B, which relates to the fact that there was Native American ancestry involved, but the other ones were not. And the most common haplogroups that showed up were U2E and also H, H1A and H2. If you look at where the most prevalent percentage of U2E and the H1s are, it is in between the Black and Caspian Seas, as in the Caucasus Mountains. This is part 3, and this is looking at physical anomalies of the Paracas elongated skulls. And the work is in this book, which will be available at the end of the video, or the email address. And this work was done by Dr. Michael Alday, who is an American physician, Dr. Malcolm Warren, who is an American chiropractor, and Rick Woodward, who is a physical anthropologist. Now, this is what we call cranial deformation. You can tell the volume of the skull is that of a normal human, and the forehead and the back of the skull have been flattened. So this is what cranial deformation on the coast of Peru looks like. This, on the other hand, is what we call a natural Paracas skull. You can see the volume is greater than the previous skull I showed you, and the whole shape is much more complex than simple cranial deformation. And so we think this person was born with an elongated skull. Also, as you saw in the photos before, at the beginning of the video, the foramen magnum, which is where your spinal cord column, vertebrae enter the bottom of the skull, is positioned at a place of balance, the balance point, which is an obvious evolutionary thing. But the anomaly in the Paracas elongated skulls that we believe are natural, and even some with headboarding, their foramen magnum, as you can see here, is at the back of the skull. So that is a genetic trait. You cannot change the position of the foramen magnum simply by binding a skull, because trying to do that, especially with a baby, you would wind up killing that person or that child. And so this is one of the genetic characteristics of what we call a natural elongated skull. Also, the suture lines. Here is the suture running across this way, but there is no sign of the sagittal suture whatsoever. And notice the curvature here, as if the two hemispheres are being represented, or the shaping was done by nature in order to have this dip inside of here. Also, the eye sockets are up to 50% larger than normal. And these bones in the back, these tiny bones here, are not in a normal human being. These are called Inca bones. They are found in the royal Inca people, but also clearly here in the Paracas as well. So that is another genetic characteristic, and that may in fact link the elongated skulls of Paracas, Peru, who died out 2,000 years ago, with the rise of the Inca culture. It's quite...
Now, as you can see, this area is, replete with all of these different strange, mummified and preserved remains of an unknown group. Regardless of whether you think they're alien or not, you have to admit that when you have this many bodies, like 50 of these mummified remains, you have hundreds of these elongated skulls, the DNA test is showing that they're not from the region. You have an issue here where you have, at minimum, an unknown human group in this region that we have not identified. They are being found with metal implants. I'll show you a picture of a skull where they did surgery. They cut open the side of the head, they put a metal implant where the skull had fractured, and it healed, the bone healed. So they know for a fact that this person survived a head surgery with a metal plate, 1,000 years ago. So, something ridiculous like that when these people were supposed to be primitive. So you have this kind of situation where all of the evidence is piling up to the point that debunkers, when the original bodies came out about 7 years ago, they attacked. You are seeing debunkers fall off like you've never seen. They are refusing to touch this situation. As more of the scientific evidence comes out, less and less detractors are attacking the validity of these artifacts. And so we're going to show you a video of Montserrat, and you can just take a look at the body from the MRIs and see what we're talking about. This creature has multiple implants all over its body, most notably the one at the head, which seems to be gold. And the reason that this is a massive issue, in fact, I'm going to show you something really quick. There's been videos that have come out of the region claiming to be the caves that they found these mummified remains in, full of golden artifacts. Now, we don't know where these artifacts are. We cannot verify this information, but I just want to show you some of these golden artifacts.
Of Hakaros discovered the sarcophagus depicting a tridactyl being measuring about 4 foot tall in one of the tombs of the mysterious citadel. What do you think, real or fake? I don't know. I think that's probably real, but you never know. But yeah, these are some of the artifacts that might be on the black market now, along with so much else that may have been discovered in those tombs. What is up with all that, guys? And that is like a man-sized golden pyramid with alien writing on it. And it's not the only depiction of potential writing found in the cave, like I believe that was found in the cave. So yeah, very, very interesting stuff, guys. Where is all this stuff? Oh, and Astral Realms is saying, greetings all. I just had an epiphany and wanted a good place to share. It appears that Maria was found by Mario wearing a crown. I wonder where this crown went, if that is true. Maybe Maria was acquired through a third party, or Thierry wants to keep it secret for some reason. I don't know, but if Maria was found with a crown, I don't know if this is supposed to be an actual picture of the crown or not. But yeah, where is this? And here's a better shot of the pyramid in the...
Now imagine you're a poor person in Peru who's creating fake artifacts to sell to gullible tourists. Are you going to take gold, implant it in a fake papier-mâché bone creature, and sell it to tourists? Why wouldn't you just sell the gold? The gold is more valuable than a fake artifact. And let me just show you some more video of Montserrat. You can take a look for yourself and kind of determine what you think. Time and time again, all the scientific evidence is showing that these strange artifacts that are being found in Peru do not align with our modern interpretation of history. Clearly, there is something going on in this area that keeps coming up time and time again. And for some reason, the mainstream academics are refusing to deal with the evidence that's right in front of them. So what do you think? Do you think these are legitimate creatures that once lived on Earth, or do you think this entire thing is a hoax? And that's the news. If you'd like to support our channel, go to the description or in the pinned comment down below. That's the unacceptable news. Don't like, don't subscribe, just run.